Over the last few weeks, automaker after automaker has been reporting their earnings and their overall quarterly performance. And I'm not exaggerating whenever I say it is a complete show. And I want to take some time to break down why this is different than anything that we've seen in the used or new car market since the pandemic. Over the last couple of years, most automakers have been reporting strong earnings and profit due to increased demand and increased car prices. Basically, since the pandemic, demand for new cars has been extremely strong, and as cars have gotten more expensive, obviously consumers are having to pay more for the cars that they purchased, thus driving up the profit from these automakers. But for many of these same automakers, the tune has changed over the last couple of months. You see, as we all know, back in the spring of this year, the Trump administration issued sweeping tariffs. And while tariffs are targeting a wide range of countries and industries, of course, those that are involved heavily in the US car market have also been affected. For example, Mexico and Canada, which have seen unprecedented tariffs in the last few months. And both of these countries are our largest trade partners in the automotive industry and are crucial partners for brands like General Motors, Toyota, Stellantis, and even Ford. But as I mentioned a moment ago, this is a worldwide issue, and other countries related to the automotive industry have also been dragged in. For example, Japan, as well as European countries, which albeit aren't the biggest trade partners when it comes to the automotive industry, but they are still partners nonetheless. Now, whenever these tariffs were announced, there was of course a lot of discussions around price increases, and specifically in the context of the car market, there was a lot of discussions about car prices going up. This is because, historically speaking, whenever tariffs are implemented on a country, sure, the company is the one that technically has to pay that tariff, but the tariff cost is then passed on to the consumer, who pays a higher cost in order to offset that tariff cost. Think of it as a form of a tax, if you will. And the car market was no different. And automotive experts predicted that this would cause car prices to go up anywhere between 10 and 20% depending on the car. However, as we see here today in mid-August of 2025, in the car market at least, these price increases just really haven't happened. And that is in large part because automakers are currently paying it for us. They are absorbing the cost of tariffs. And while this is great news for anybody who has purchased a new car in the last couple of months, I unfortunately believe that this is a bit short-lived. And after the earning releases of this past quarter, it isn't really a matter of if automakers are going to raise prices, it is simply a matter of when. Let's take a look at a few examples, starting with General Motors. General Motors earnings were down 31.06% this past quarter, revenue was down 1.8%, but net income was down 35.4%. And according to General Motors, their tariff hit for the year is expected to be between $4 and $5 billion, with $1.1 billion being spent towards tariffs in Q2 alone. Pivoting to Ford, Ford revenue is down 5%, though they did beat expectations, and they reported a net loss of $36 million. And so unlike General Motors, who did see a decline in net income, Ford just straight up lost money. And Ford also reported a $2 billion tariff hit. Now, Stellantis showed some steep losses, and of course, not all of this is due to tariffs, because as we know, Stellantis is a mess, and they have been for quite a while now. But Stellantis lost $2.7 billion last quarter, with $348 million spent on tariffs, with expectations for that to climb much higher. While Toyota saw some staggering data, with net income falling a whopping 37% and a $4 billion tariff hit last quarter alone. However, Toyota is already beginning to set expectations for the year, and they have said that they expect for the tariff hit to climb, and it could reach as high as $9.5 billion by the end of the year. Honda saw a 50% reduction in operating profit, while Subaru is expecting their full-year net income to decline by 53%. The list truly goes on and on and on. Of all of the earnings that I looked at this past quarter, none of them were very good. Many of them saw significant tariff costs, as well as a decline in income year over year, and there were even ones like Ford or Stellantis that actually reported losses for the quarter. Now, as I mentioned earlier, as we've been sitting here today, many automakers have been eating the cost of tariffs, meaning that while automakers' costs have largely gone up due to a variety of different factors, including import fees, paying more for the parts that they use on their cars, etc., the cost for us as the consumer has largely stayed the same. Now, don't get it twisted, automakers have made some changes in the car market since tariffs went into effect. Ford actually offered a friends and family type discount promotion, which they marketed heavily at the beginning of summer, have also started to increase prices across some models, specifically ones made in Mexico. This was a change that went into effect in July. Toyota has seen a relatively unsubstantial price hike for Lexus and Toyota vehicles, and Hyundai has changed their warranty program to save money. And so automakers are absolutely making moves in order to either increase profit or decrease costs in order to offset some of these tariff effects. But largely across the board, we are just not seeing a significant increase in cost of vehicles, despite the significant costs that tariffs have caused. But mark my words, this will absolutely not last forever. Now, this is just my prediction based off of what I've seen in the car market, but I predict that we will begin to see price increases across a variety of different makes and models over the next year or so. But I don't think that those price increases are going to be outwardly labeled as price increases as a result of tariffs. I mean, let's look no further than an interview with the CFO of General Motors and what he had to say when asked whether or not General Motors is looking to increase prices. We don't expect any specific price increases related to tariffs, but certainly pricing and stability is important for us as we continue to manage our inventories with discipline and really drive the business for cash flow. And I think the phrasing specific price increases related to tariffs is important here. That phrasing was a choice, and I think what he's saying is that we could see price increases, but they're technically not going to be due to tariffs. And truthfully, from an optics standpoint, this take kind of makes sense. Because on the most basic surface level, the way to avoid tariffs is to bring manufacturing to the United States. And while we know that this isn't entirely true, that is still how it's phrased far too often. And so if automakers choose to raise prices, what they're basically saying is, hey, we're not going to move manufacturing into the United States like the Trump administration wants. Instead, we're just going to raise prices so that you guys are paying for this increased cost, which definitely isn't a good look to say the least. The bottom line is, these earnings that we're seeing now, they aren't getting better unless something significant happens with tariffs. Even trade deals like the 15% deal with Japan isn't going to eliminate the insane cost of tariffs. And the fact that EV demand is set to cool, it's a recipe for more losses, which is something that automakers are simply not going to have the stamina for long term. And so what I think is ultimately going to end up happening is that automakers are going to wait until tariffs stabilize a bit. This stabilization will provide more clarity on what tariffs are going to look like long term. And as we sit here today, we are getting closer and closer to that point of being able to pinpoint what tariffs will look like not only 30 days from now, but potentially 2 years from now. And I believe that then and only then, once the dust has settled, price increases will follow. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit that subscribe button, and the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.